Hi, and welcome to the podcast.
It never gets old.
It never gets old. It's the best part about this podcast is that, we can, our name is literally the epitome of 90% of what we say through a regular basis.
Yeah, people can click away after the first 5 seconds because just the intro, then you're good. That's all you need.
Well, hi, my name is Obi again. ObidotEXE, as most of you may know, and I'm joined by my co-host, TheRealOmen _
Greetings. Yeah, don't forget the underscore.
You gotta put the underscore in there because otherwise they can't find your at.
How have you been, Obi? What's been going on? What's new with you this week?
Let's see. So some unfortunate news. I do have to bring up. Well, I don't have to, but like it's already on Twitter, so you guys would have seen it. I did lose my job. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out for both of us. As far as they didn't feel as if I was performing well enough, and I feel like I wasn't getting enough hours to perform enough. So obviously, we weren't able to meet a middle, and no ill will whatsoever. I genuinely do think that when you just can't come to an agreement with a company, that's okay, because they're going to do what they're going to do, and you just have to do what you gotta do.
Look, you just tell me where to mail the bag of shit, okay? And I will mail it.
Well, the bag of shit would be to my location, and I don't think that they would be very happy about that. And I don't know if I'd be happy going downstairs and being like, "There's a fucking bag of shit. Who fucking put this bag of shit down here?" You know.
Look, I've got a German Shepherd, man. He shits a lot.
That's true. You know
There's
what?
enough to go around.
But yeah, that's what's been happening for me this week. Mainly just getting back on my feet, looking for new opportunities and things along those lines. I will be going back to streaming on a more consistent basis since I do have more time on my hands, and I really do miss my community. It's never not a point at which I don't miss my community. It's a matter of I don't ever feel confident, basically, enough to go back to it on a consistent basis, and I don't know really where that comes from. But yeah, I will be going back to streaming. I'm really excited about that. I'll have a stream schedule set up so that way I can keep my promises to myself and also to you lovely viewers and my community. But how about you, man?
That's twitch.tv/obidotEXE, right? That's where they can find you?
That's where they can find me. And okay. We have some exciting things coming out soon. Omen's already heard one of them, which was a solid step in the right direction of where I'm wanting to go. So, but yes,
100%.
Talk to me about your week. What do you got going on?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I will say that I'm really excited to start watching twitch.tv/obidotEXE on a more regular basis. I'm doing good, man. Still just working out, trying to get lean and in shape for, and sexy for TwitchCon, And I will say this, dude, today. So I got this bowl of chili that I just destroyed, and for me, I am a hot sauce fanatic. I don't know if anybody's been on TikTok or seen the Elijah's hot sauce, but like it's always like videos of him packaging it or whatever. It's like great marketing because I was like, I gotta buy that shit. And they have like this 5-pack or 3-pack. I can't. No, it's a 3-pack, and then you can get like an extra one that's called like Extreme Regret Reserve or whatever. Let me tell you this. It's delicious. However, your bowels will explode out of your asshole. Like there's no way around it. I put like 3 or 4 drops. I kind of salt bait it, throwing back to that old ass reference. But dude, I mean, I had the sniffles. Like it was pretty darn rough. Delicious, but spicy.
Well, funny that you bring it up. I pulled it up right here. You have ghost pepper sauce, reaper sauce, and then extreme regret. What kind of name? Like extreme regret. Okay, well then I won't regret it if I don't purchase it. Like
Oh, and the name is accurate. It is the most accurate name, like truth in marketing, truth in advertising I've ever seen in my life. Because you
oh
regret it.
shit.
It's delicious, but you regret it. Also, another thing that happened today. So, again, going back to the losing weight thing and getting in shape,
Mm-hmm.
my pants do not fit me anymore. They are made for a much larger me, right?
Yes.
And I go to this secondhand store. I think I mentioned it last week, or
Mm.
last podcast. And I walk in, I'm like, all right, I need to get me some jeans, and go over to the jeans section, and they've got like big name brands, but like half off, right?
Mm.
It said like $18 on the sticker, so I go try them on. Ass was assing today. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm like, okay, these will work. Up to the thing. You go, oh, this is our like 4th of July weekend sale. It's 80% off. I paid $4 for a pair
Oh
of jeans.
my god.
$4, bro. So don't anybody who's listening, do not sleep on secondhand stores
Mm-mm.
because they will hook your ass up. And especially now when everything is super freaking expensive, like we need to save money any way we can.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Wait, what if there was like a secondhand store for like adult themed things? They would really hook your ass up, right?
Oh my god. That might be my favorite joke I've ever heard. Oh god, dude, the idea of a secondhand, I'm not even gonna say what it is, but the idea of that being secondhand bothers me immensely. Like
80% off. You never feel better pleasure in your life.
80% off and 70% in.
Oh my god. I'm glad we got that one out of the way. I'm so happy. Well,
Hi mom, hi
Omen.
dad. I didn't listen.
You had a topic to bring today to the table, and I wanna give you the floor on that one.
Yes. So, Obi, you and I are both products of the 90s, right?
Yes, yes.
So I wanted to take this opportunity to bring up like toys and things from the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
just to see one, if you remember them, and two, if they were as big a part of your life as they were for me.
Okay.
Okay. First one, really controversial. Some people love it, most people hate it. Some people think it was actually a product of the devil himself. Furbies.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Did you have a Furby?
So
And did you have a? Go ahead.
finish your sentence.
No, and do you have a demonic story where the Furby tried to murder you in your sleep? Typical Furby behavior.
Well, I can answer that one very quickly. The answer is no. I didn't have him, diabolically plan my the parish of my life. But I didn't have one personally. My sister did, and we only had it for a short period of time because the batteries, the AA batteries to, keep it running and everything, they were so expensive, and it just wasn't financial. We weren't really like rich or even middle class whenever I was younger.
Gotcha.
We ended up being pretty poor whenever I was young. And so we didn't really have that option. As the years went on, income changed and so on and so forth, but so did the games and the toys and things like that. So I had very few things when it came to that. But I don't have a Furby, nor do I have a demonic story. What about you?
So, when it comes to the Furby, this was one of the situations where, like, back when that came out, it was all over TV. It was everywhere. Everybody wanted a Furby because it was an animatronic you could have in your house.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
What people didn't account for was as the batteries started to die in the Furby, it became a product of the devil because no longer did it function properly, And in the middle of the night, out of nowhere, you would just hear, ooh, just coming from your closet, right? And if you don't realize it's a Furby, one might grab a baseball bat and then go to the closet assuming there's about to be, an altercation that there never was. But, dude, there were so many times when my little, however old, what year did Furbies come out? Hang on, let me look this up. Of course, my thing's frozen. Of course,
Furby.
90s, right?
90s, yes.
Well, my little, let's say it's 3 or 4-year-old ass would be getting ready to drift off to dreamland, into the soft embrace of slumber, only to be jolted awake by a possessed fucking owl, bird, gremlin thing. I don't know what you would call it. They were just their own animal.
They were, yeah.
And like that was too much for me. And so I ended up taking the batteries out, and I swear once or twice, I don't know if it was the trauma at that point, but I swear once or twice I heard it with no batteries in it. So I'm like, oh, that's just Belphegor in the fucking closet possessing the Furby, trying to get to me. But the other things I wanted to talk about. Oh God. You gotta watch out, I'm sensitive, I'm scared.
I'm traumatized. CPTSD, brother.
First off, if my Furby sounded like that, I'm out of the house. It is perpetual camping for me at that point on, right?
Exactly. I become a
hoodlum. Living in the backyard. Do you remember, this is another one, and I had one of these. Do you remember Skippets?
Yes, I did. Yes. Many injuries because of that flail that we put upon our legs. It was very impressive how I got more damage dealt to my legs as a child that way than a scooter. One of the, the scooters. Yeah. Who makes scooters? Who was it? Razor?
I think it was Razor at a certain point. They did the electric ones, but I think every company, because again, early 2000s scooters became like the thing. Hey kids, do you want to skateboard with handlebars? Like, there you go. It was the big thing for a little bit, but I lovingly refer to both the Skippet and scooters as the Shin Destroyer 9000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think of Skippets as jump rope for less athletic people.
It's like you want your cardio, but with a little bit of danger.
I don't want to know if my shins are going to survive the entire altercation. And I'll never forget the commercial for Skippets, because I don't know if you remember this, but there was like kids playing with them in the street, and they were playing outside a cathedral for some reason, because apparently kids who do this need Jesus or something.
What?
And yes. And a nun comes out and it's like, what are you doing, children? And then starts doing Skippets with the kids in the yard. It's like, Skippets for everybody, from nuns to children and stuff like that.
Oh my God, I see it now.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Dude,
100%.
It looks like an old, cathedral manor, almost. Like that an evil man named Eisenhower lives there up in the top part where that clock tower is. Holy shit. That's crazy.
And with the kids being right outside, it's literally the start of a Stephen King book. You know what I mean? Like the door's about to swing open and tentacles are about to grab the kids and pull them inside,
It's children of the Skippets.
Yes. They were playing with this children's toy. We never saw them again. Another one, do you have any that you remember specifically that you would like to add? Because I could go on forever about this.
Oh man, you've got me. Okay, so I did. You reminded me the moment you started bringing up outdoor toys, because then my parents were all about buying us outdoor toys, because they were like, you need to get outside, you need to exercise, you need to, maintain your cardiovascular, all this shit. I mean, they didn't obviously say cardiovascular because I was a child. But, they were like, you need to stay in shape. Well, I was also on Adderall whenever I was a kid because I have
Okay.
ADHD.
Mhm.
I was so skinny because I was outside, and I was like, you know, I was on Adderall, and so my blood pressures go through the roof, like not through the roof, but like it's very fast.
Yeah.
My metabolism is going insane, and I was basically 2D for a short period of time in my life.
16-bit Obi.
But yes, you did remind me of moon shoes. And moon shoes, I don't even okay, for those of you who don't know, moon shoes were a contraption of bungee cables that you would put onto your feet that would elevate you off of the floor, and when you pushed down, it would then spring back up and then push you upwards. And every kid on my block wanted one. We always wanted a pair. You just strap them to your shoes and call it a day. Well, I put them to my shoes whenever I was a kid, and I realized how big of an issue this whole ordeal was. First off, the first step is one of the hardest things to ever do. Getting up is like challenge in itself, but taking that first step is like, I'm stepping out into the world of magic and mystery. And then you fall flat on your face and you cry to your mom and you scraped your elbow and you're going to have to never use them again because your mom doesn't want you to get hurt anymore. Sorry, reliving trauma. But did you have any?
Oh yeah, I had moon shoes, but like they were kind of we had one set of moon shoes collectively for like myself, my brother, and my sister, right? So we kind of had to share the moon shoes.
Mm.
And I remember, like you said, I remember putting them on, and it was like I was a newborn baby giraffe on ice. Like I could not get my footing. And I don't know, like it's basically tiny trampolines for your feet.
Mm.
So any step you took was then enhanced by trying to propel you forward. And I remember taking one small step for Omen, one giant leap for the concrete in my front yard. Like that's what it was. I don't think there was a joint that I did not scrape wearing moon shoes at the time. Dude, those things were super dangerous. I think they ended up discontinuing them fairly quickly
Yes.
because of issues they had with them. Like,
Moon shoes, strap them onto your feet. I still remember the theme song because it's like, and I think we've talked about this before about how I don't know if we've done it on the podcast, but there were like multiple of those like outdoor toys and things like that would have really banger like jingles. And that's why you would remember them. We did talk about it because it was the Quiznos thing.
Yes.
Yes, it was the Quiznos bit. But yeah, that shit is crazy. Like the toys that we had when we were kids, they were not safe, not tested. And the only way that they were approved by QA was, does it work? I don't know, Steve. What are you telling? Oh, it works.
I've got this great idea, Jimothy. I have this idea for a miniature functioning coal factory for children. But there was a similar thing. See, that's a joke. But there was a similar thing that was a chemistry set. Do you remember? You could buy this chemistry set that had like a version of uranium in it.
What?
Do you remember what? Yes. Let me see if I can. It was like like baby's first chemistry set. That wasn't the name. But
What?
like children's chemistry.
Back in the day, we had these 1, 2, 3 for kids kind of toys. Very Fisher Price, but I don't know if anyone realizes the dark past of Fisher Price. It was very, very, very bad. Like
really?
So here, let me pull one up. What was it? Fisher Price. What was it? Discontinues. That's what it was. I've looked this up before.
Yeah, they would have so many bad things in their games. Well, Monopoly, like the pieces for a little while were like genuine high grade lead, you know?
They were, yeah.
Yeah, put
And
it next to your face.
it was
Put it in your
super,
mouth.
super heavy.
Mm-hmm. I remember
Uh,
all of those. God.
oh,
Dude, do
yeah.
you remember? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, here's one. Okay, so Fisher Price did have infants to toddlers rockers back in the day. And from the time of 2009 to 2022 or 2021, there was reported a total of 13 babies that had perished in the rockers because of misuse. Or they chucked it up to misuse and then got paid off. Basically, a lot of the families ended up signing NDAs, but some of them did take them to court. And I don't remember if any of them won or not, but yeah, it was. The product was saying that it was telling parents that they should never be used for sleep. They were meant to be just used for regular use. That wasn't in the clause. And so when they put the child in there, they thought it's a rocker. It's like a wood rocker would be the same thing. It's just it goes back and forth. No, this shit literally murdered unalived children. So that's one of them that I remember for a fact.
Yeah, I never heard that. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, well, it just goes back, like you were saying, how in the 90s, there was no safety precautions. It was just, does it look fun? Sure. Here, kids, play with lawn darts. We'll give you 7-inch metal spikes that you can literally yeet at your friends and try not to spear Timmy through the chest. Like, dude, it was incredible. The one, of course, this also segues because you had mentioned killer like jingles and theme songs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Sock'em Boppers?
Oh my God, yes, I do.
Sock'em Boppers, Sock'em Boppers. And the commercial looked so much fun because it was just 9-year-olds wailing on each other with beach balls on their hands.
Oh yeah, and then you had that one instance where you just had a frame, like a center frame of a kid just getting pummeled from each side of the screen. I'm like,
just like he's like got his hands up, he's trying to cover up like he's in a boxing match. And the thing that I thought was crazy to me, if I remember correctly, I might have been wrong. It might have said Sock'em Bopper, but like on the far side of it, apart from the side you put your hand, it had like the comic book script, and it said either Wham or something like that.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and I never had Sock'em Boppers because my mom was smart and knew what would happen, and that I would just beat the shit out of my brother. And bless my mother, I'm the youngest, right? I'm the baby, right, of my family. And so when I was little, I could get away with crap, and my mom would not let my brother retaliate, and I used that to my full advantage. Like, however, I will say I was never like spiteful. I never did anything out of like, just sheer like wanting to mess with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
It was always he was good at hiding things, like hiding when he was being mean, you know? I'll never forget, like, one time I was little, and, like, he had done something. I cannot remember what it was, but, like, the parents didn't see it. I'm like, all right, it's going to be some vigilante justice. I'm doing things. And we had one of those big, like, TVs with the antennas on it that you had to adjust and everything in the living room. And my brother was, like, sitting on the carpet watching TV, and my parents were sitting on the couch. Do you know what a wiffle ball is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and they have those like plastic bats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they're not gonna hurt anybody, right? I just grabbed it and I walked into the living room. I just beat the crap out of my brother with a wiffle ball. And he was not allowed to retaliate. To this day, I still feel bad about that. But at the time, I was like, this is justified.
It's just a phase. Don't worry about
it. But, like, not only just outside toys, do you remember, or I guess this doesn't really matter, but do you remember the games, like, there was Bop It? And then there was, do you remember Brain Warp?
Oh God, is that the one where you put the little strap on the head?
No, I think that's a game that came much later in adult life. But no, I'm
Oh,
talking about
okay.
the one.
Yeah, VR headset. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, totally VR. Anyway, no, Brain Warp was that game. It was kind of like Bop It, but like the game looked like an underwater mine, and they were all different colors, and you had to like spin it to the ones on top that was the right color that they said.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, dude. Like I had all of those things, man, and I think that was back in the days before video games really started to become more than just like Pong or Mario, you know?
Yeah.
So we had to stay entertained analog, right? Though that brings me to another point. Early 90s, early 2000s video game.
Yes. All right, here we go.
So I feel like we can go on forever about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is our like heyday, man. We growing up with some of these. I want to know if you remember this one off the top. Do you remember Pokemon Snap?
Yes, I do. I didn't have it, but I had a friend who was down the road who would always let me play it. Like, I'd come over to his house and he would be like, "Oh, we're gonna play on the N64," and I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And then I'd fucking head inside. We'd sit down and have a great time. And God, that was I really feel like that was revolutionary for as far as like observation video games.
Have there been more observation video games? I don't keep up with the
I mean, there was
observational.
I
I never played. Well, I mean, go the OG, which is different on these pages. Like, I remember that game. There was, and for me, I would play the same level. I'm a completionist. Pause. But like, I will make sure that if I'm, what? Anyway, we're just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
I would play the same level over and over again until I got every single one.
Yeah.
Right. I couldn't not 5-star everything, and that's why it took me like months to beat a game that should have taken like 2 sittings. Because you're just taking pictures of Pokemon. That's all it is.
Yeah, but there's something about the completionist side, of that game that you just really want to be able to say, I did this. Especially back in the day. I feel like whenever we were younger, there were not as many like incentives to do it other than us wanting to have that completion in mind. Pause. And we could
Go on.
but we have that completion in mind. That is our thing that we want to focus on. And it's not like we're going to get an achievement every single time. Sometimes it's just the simple satisfactory that you did something to completion. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I couldn't even get it out.
Must be nice.
Pause.
Well, that's why I think when the Xbox came out, it was so revolutionary, because you would get literally the achievement points, right? And you would try to get the full gamer score and always have, I have 100% of this game, and then trophies on the PlayStation came out, and those were a thing. And I mean, these games back in the day, they didn't really have that. You just kind of had to know it in your heart of hearts that you did everything right in the video game, Though, staying on the topic of Nintendo 64, arguably, I will die on this hill, arguably the greatest video game ever made. GoldenEye.
See, I knew you were going to say that. And I had a rebuttal.
Go ahead.
When it comes to N64 specifically, this is really hard to say. Donkey Kong 64.
Ooh.
I think it was one of the quintessential games, other than, obviously everyone's going to say, Super Mario 64 and stuff. No, right. Donkey Kong had so many. You had different characters. You had different, weapons that you would be able to use. You know, there was the completionist aspect of it, because if you didn't complete everything, then you couldn't get to the special part at the Croc's Tower,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to have all the bananas. And in order to have all the bananas, you have to have all the characters, and in order to have all the characters, you have to go through the game. So yeah, is I would say, as far as like revolutionizing the game industry, I think it's one of the best. But I want to hear your perspective on GoldenEye.
See, I agree that Donkey Kong is definitely a quintessential game when it comes. Quintessential is a hard word to say when you're dumb. So, but I don't. It was it Donkey Kong or was it Donkey Kong Country that had like the song that was like ba-dee-ba-dee-bip, ba-dee-ba-dee-bip, ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-dee.
I think Donkey Kong Country had it first, and
Mm-hmm.
then it got adapted into Donkey Kong 64.
That song lives rent free in my head all the time. If you could come into my head at any moment in time, that song would be playing 100%.
I
So
think
I feel that. GoldenEye, to me, first off, it was the first real, like, 3D first person shooter. Like, we had Doom and we had Duke Nukem and things like that, where you had the 2D kind of moving through space type of deal.
mhm.
But GoldenEye, I think, took it a bit further. It was like a stealth game, but it also, was a shooter, and you would try to sneak, but it never worked. And I don't think they wanted it to work, you know. But my only argument really against Donkey Kong in favor of GoldenEye is like, can you turn on big head mode and paintball mode in Donkey Kong Country and just totally pull out an AK-47 and murk King Croc?
I mean, you couldn't, but you
I
did
rest my case.
have like, you did have, okay. There were some cool things you could do, you know. So they did include a couple of like little glitches and things like that, and Easter eggs, into the game that would give you like something really really dumb. I don't honestly remember them off the top of my head, but they were definitely, there were some. I remembered that much.
Speaking of Easter eggs in video games, we want to talk about how, like, back in those days when they were making video games, you could always tell where the Easter eggs were because there would be a wall and then there would be a section of the wall that is completely differently colored, and then you'd either have to shoot it or explode it or something like that.
Yeah, or
And
walk
then
through it
the
into a
secrets.
tunnel or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be like a secret tunnel, secret tunnel,
Secret tunnel.
secret tunnel. But there was that was big in my favorite game probably of all time. Metal Gear Solid had things like that, and I want to talk about that game later.
Mm-hmm.
But um, that reminded me of what's the name of the game? What is the name of? Oh my goodness! I'm having a total brain fart. It's completely gone. Oh well. Anyway, pick another game.
Yeah.
If it comes back.
So, you said, you know, are you declaring for a fact that GoldenEye, without a shadow of a doubt, is 100% your favorite game of all time?
No,
Okay,
no,
all
no, no,
right.
no.
Because
On the
I wanted to
Nintendo.
talk on that topic.
No, 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 no. On the Nintendo 64, I believe that GoldenEye was the epitome of what that console could do and the best Nintendo 64 game of all time.
Okay, all right. I can agree with that. I would say, as far as like being the best game, it would have to be, or you know, I wouldn't say that Donkey Kong. As far as like revolutionizing the game, that's where I feel like it is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my favorite game is actually Paper Mario, because it introduced different concepts of like 2D and 3D into the game. It allowed for turn-based combat, which is something that I super enjoy, and then also reactionary stuff too, because in the turn-based you had to like know when to do the doot 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 doot, and then you smack the hammer, right? Like you had to
Right.
know that kind of stuff, and so it also helped with like learning how storylines build, or how world building works, and how you learn more about the characters that are in that area, and they also had insane amount of Easter eggs. So out of the 64, that would be my 100% favorite.
I'm about to say a take that is going to be a very hot take that will probably annoy a lot of people.
Okay, I was about to say, is this going to end the podcast?
You know, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed our time together, Obi. I firmly believe. Now, I'm also going to preface by saying I never played Paper Mario. I haven't played a ton of Marios. Like, I played Super Mario for the Wii. I played Mario Party, Mario Kart, kind of the sort of Mario adjacent games that are sports related. Those are the ones that I've played.
Sure.
I feel like Mario ran out of ideas 20 years ago. Here now, let me just say.
All right.
So Super Mario 64 comes out. Cool. Everybody loves it. It's it's amazing. It's revolutionary. It's 3D Mario. You're jumping through paintings and swimming, and it's really hard to control the camera, but that's besides the point. You clip through walls and shit.
Yeah.
But I feel like every time they went back to, okay, we did Super Mario 64. What are we gonna do now? Making paper. Okay. Oh, that was super successful. That was great. What are we gonna do now? It's give him a pressure washer, and make it also a jetpack. And then they're like, okay, that was really successful. What are we gonna do? Fuck Mario. Let's take Luigi, give him a vacuum cleaner, and put him in a ghost mansion. Like, it just always seemed like they would spin the wheel of gimmicks, and it was like, ghost vacuum cleaner. Like, that was the way it seemed like it went. To me personally, I believe that the Mario games that are not like Mario Kart, Mario Kart Double Dash, one of my favorite games ever. But the story-based Mario games, I feel like they're just kind of gimmicks at this point. Come at me in the comments, come at me everywhere you want. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay, so first off, how dare you? Secondly, I can understand where you're coming from, actually, now that you framed it within the perspective of it just being gimmicks. I can see where you're coming from. I don't agree, but it's specifically with, like, Paper Mario was intended to be, a turn-based RPG game that, and it was trying to do what Final Fantasy has done for a very, very long time. And that actually brings up a great topic. Final Fantasy being one of the quintessential PS1 games as far as turning gaming into more of an adventure and allowing for more open world fantasy-like world building, basically. That's one of my absolute favorites for PS2. Also, thirdly, you do that sound for the spinner way too well. I don't know if it's the modulator or if it was just how well you did that, but it was fucking on point. I'll tell you that.
I have few talents, but they're stupid and pointless all of it. Well, I mean, I get the idea that it was supposed to be its own thing. Going back to Mario, we can touch on Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But going back to Mario, I get it was supposed to be its own thing. I did think it was cool how, like, the villains in that game, weren't they like office supplies?
So they weren't necessarily office supplies, but they were the game was very fourth wall about a lot of stuff, with it stating that they're paper, right. and if he got wet, then he would, like, be soaked from, like, the lower half down, and it just would change colors over time, so that way it showed him drying. That was a really cool fucking thing.
Cool mechanic.
And characters would be would notate things that as to why they were paper, or your I think there is a line in the game that specifically is Bowser mocking Mario for being paper, even though he is paper himself.
that's fun and it's tongue in cheek, and I love that, and I think that's great. But like, it's still a gimmick to me personally.
Okay.
Which, by the way, there's things that I do in life that have me moist from the waist down too. But no, that's whenever I play Super Paper Mario. Is it just Paper Mario or Super Paper Mario?
Well, they have a lot of them actually now. They have.
Of course they do.
They have. Okay. All right.
It sounds like I'm a Mario hater. I'm not. I'm really not. I really like it. But like, look, you got Super Mario Land, Super Mario Galaxy. Where's Mario not been? Not been to space. Let's put him there. You know, is he in the water? Let's Odyssey. You know, we'll do that. Or was Odyssey the one in space too? Are they both in space?
Odyssey was travel. Yeah, it was like traveling from like planet to planet.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I mean, again, I haven't played them, therefore I cannot say with absolute certainty that it's a gimmick. And I know I'm gonna catch shit for this. You're gonna need to find a new co-host because I'm gonna be canceled by next podcast.
It's okay.
But I just feel like they tried to do too much, or they tried to be too much else. You know, trying to capture the Final Fantasy kind of fan base and things like that. I'll say this as well: the amount of Final Fantasy I've played is very limited. Like, I've played some of it, and I appreciate it. The turn-based combat, while I get that some people love it, it's not particularly for me. But no, I enjoy the strategy behind it, and I think that's fun. I think the storyline's fantastic, too.
Oh, yeah.
The certain ones.
Yeah, correct. I was about to say, there are a few that I'm like, I am struggling to get through this game. I feel like I have to have a few sessions. There are some that I can sit down for, you know, the whole session and finish the game. And those, you know, the ones that I'll kind of point out, you know, this is basically what everyone knows for a fact. You know, Final Fantasy VII is obviously a fantastic game. Final Fantasy VIII is very, very, very good. Final Fantasy, I think it was 11, the one with Captain Bosch. That one was really, really, really good, and incorporated some new, you know, concepts and things like that for turn-based, but also knowing that you can set up macros basically for your characters, so that way if like you didn't want to run the healer or you didn't want to have to run the tank, they will automatically do what you want to do. Kind of a cool concept. I like it a lot. The voice acting, we could talk about that. And then, you know, the Final Fantasy 14, obviously, most people, this is a great actual point. Final Fantasy 14 just had a new release for an expansion, and Trailblaze, I believe, is the one that's out right now. One content creator reached out to me and said, hey, if you need a code or anything, let me know. And I was like, oh, cool. Shit, okay, I'd love to play. Like, honestly, it'd be a lot of fun to get into another Final Fantasy game again.
Yeah, I would love to watch that at twitch.tv/ObidotEXE.
But, go ahead.
Well, you were talking about the voice acting, and I feel like at any point when there's a Japanese-made game that they then do an English dub, it's either really good or it is god-awful.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you remember, but there was an X-Men game. It was a fighting game. It was a 2D game. I cannot remember which one it was. It might have even been an arcade game. But Magneto, whenever he did like his like finishing move, right? The translation of words just really didn't work. And I believe he says X-Men enter to die or something like that. I'm like, enter to die. What does that even mean?
Translation back in the day didn't exist. They basically hired someone that, like, they hired the new guy, you know, the intern, who was like, yeah, I speak a little bit of Japanese. Like, I've gone over there one time. So I'm basically literate. And he would, you know, be the guy that does the translation. And I will say, It has gotten better over the years, but
Yes.
man, back in the day,
Oh,
Japanese to English translations never existed really. When
no.
they did, it was The Intern, and that shit
Mm-hmm.
looked horrible.
Mm-hmm. I feel like certain companies did it better than others.
Mm.
Like, I really feel like Capcom struggled with it a lot.
Yep.
I think that X-Men game was even a Capcom game. And I know the early Resident Evils, wow, amazing games. The dubs were a little not that great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like Konami got it done amazingly. And specifically, again, the Metal Gear series,
Mm-hmm.
I think they did such a good job with the English dubs. Some of it was like a little cringy dialogue, but I think that might just also be me looking through it through the lens of being in 2024, having played it first in like the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I actually played through, they recently released a Metal Gear Solid anthology series for the PlayStation 5 where you could go, what?
Go ahead.
For
Go
the,
ahead.
Okay, so I can see Obi, and Obi just broke out in laughter, and I'm really curious as to what. But what I was saying was they released an anthology series for the PS5, and I went back and played the first one,
Mm.
and there's like some parts like you have to find this girl, right? And she's like infiltrated the base with you, and she stole one of the uniforms
Mm-hmm.
of one of the guards. And the way you tell who she is in the game is by looking for the hip sway of her ass. And I'm like, man, this game would not get made today. There's no shot. There's no chance. But what were you gonna say? What were you gonna say?
So I'm gonna send you a picture, and
Oh god.
so I was gonna talk on bad translations. This was a good transition actually to one of my childhood games that I followed from beginning to end. You know, it's still there's still a chance that it could be ongoing. And you mentioned Capcom, Mega Man Battle Network. This was my bread and butter whenever I was a child. Now, whenever I was young, I didn't notice small things like translation issues because I was too involved with the game. It was a vibrant game. The combat style was just so, it encapsulated you to want to continue on, keep fighting your viruses and complete the story, right?
Yeah.
I never noticed the bad translations until I got older. And here's one. It is a child. It is a child that was originally supposed to be talking to her mother, and whenever they translated it, Japanese works in very interesting ways. I don't know if you know how, the words and everything work.
Mm-hmm.
So originally, when it's read out, it's supposed to be, top to down in book format. You would read it top to down, and then it would go left to right. Well, the speech bubbles didn't really meet up on this one, and so the mother and the child were talking to each other, and they mixed up the lines. And so the child said, "Be a good girl and wait for me here." So there's one. And it is, I didn't really even see this kind of stuff whenever I was younger. And it didn't register in my brain because I want to focus on the game, the character was what, it drove me towards this game is the combat style was fun, but the characters just really were just their own person. And I really did enjoy that. I've played this game from the first original Mega Man Battle Network all the way up to Battle Network, Cybeast, Flazar, and Gregar. The thing about this game is that there were two copies after, I believe, Blue and White. And so you had to I was always on the fence. My brother and I were going back and forth. Who gets which one? Who gets which one? And you know, I got White, I got Red Sun, and then I got Cybeast Grigar. And those were the ones that I was like over the moon about. They were so much fun. I had such an amazing and Team Colonel. I got Team Colonel as well. So those are all of the I guess discographies of the games that I got the chance to play. And then when my brother got older, he didn't really play his Game Boy anymore. So I yoinked the other copies and played those. And I was like, man, you do have the same storyline, but it changes so much whenever you can play as a different character.
Yes.
Like, this is so fucking cool. And
yes,
I did enjoy the fact that they went down that route. I wish that they would do that with games nowadays, to where you would have one type and then you would have another type. And if you played on this version of the game, it did this thing. Or if you did this version of the game, it had a special whatever, right?
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. And I don't really, I can understand why, right? Because nowadays we have games that are like Elden Ring, and you can play basically like 40 different ways in one game. So I can understand that, but there was something so special back in the day about those limited editions, you know?
Oh yeah. And the idea behind that you would get these different like you were saying, different experiences, but it played with the idea of you never think you're the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I always loved that in video games whenever they kind of expanded on that, which is another thing that Metal Gear did really well. You can tell I really like that game.
Oh, solid, very solid game.
No pun intended, because Metal Gear Solid. No, there, yeah.
Anyway.
but you're absolutely right. I will say, if there's a game series or game company, they kind of went under, but they're trying to make a resurgence. I'm actually playing one of them currently, going through it on stream. But Telltale games, did you ever play any of those?
Yes, I did. Back whenever you had a PlayStation Pass, I think is what it was. For the PS3, I played through. They had it on the list of like monthly rotational games that you could pick up. It was Walking Dead. I played season 1 of Walking Dead from Telltale. That was so good, and honestly, I cried. I did cry at the end. It was a fantastic masterpiece. And I'm surprised that more people didn't jump on the bandwagon whenever it was out.
Well, I think a lot of people did, but it's just so far removed from like the Call of Duties and the shooters, then the Counter Strikes that became super popular. And it's not a super exciting game unless you enjoy character development and stories. And I love that. So I played every season of that game. Some better than others. The first one still is a standout, and the way they make you care for that little girl in that game is oh my gosh. I would jump through the screen and actually die for that child. You know what I mean? And dude, those games I feel like are as close as you get nowadays to playing through a game and actually getting to have your choices matter as to what you do. I would say that it makes it makes it difficult to know how much influence you have on the game. Some people's critique of Telltale games is like, they're kind of superficial choices and you don't really know how much it's influencing, because everybody kind of ends up at the same point at the end.
Sure.
But, you know, there's friendships that you've dissolved or made and strengthened along the way. And, you know, and I will say that game, going back to translations, even though that was scripted, like in English, not always the most convincing voice acting in those games. I don't know why. I don't know if it was a payment thing. Shout out to the person who did Clem, though, because she was incredible. And the guy who did Lee, and absolutely amazing. And I'm never going to trash a voice actor for anything, but just maybe they were having an off day. They're reading these lines.
The thing that I think of is, wasn't Telltale originally a Kickstarter?
Yes, I think you're right.
I think that's why it was, because it was one of those games that when you think of Kickstarters, Kickstarter games, one of the biggest ones that you'll think about is Telltale, and then Shovel Knight. Those are like two big names that really didn't have, they got their ball rolling, you know, as soon as they started hitting more of the Let's Play channels and things like that, and then people started supporting it. But they didn't really have a big budget at the beginning, so they had to put something out, you know, and I understand that, you know, if I were to make a song or something, spoilers, and I were to put it out as a raw version,
talented bastard.
If I were to do something along those lines, I don't know if it would exactly sound the greatest, you know, versus if I were to have the option of getting a producer, getting mixing done, and things like that.
Right, yeah, and it's always, you know, if you rush things, you know, it can end up poorly or it can end up good, you know, it all really depends on the overhead of what you're trying to accomplish. And I think video games need that extra time to develop and things like that. One of them specifically, this kind of encapsulates everything, both rushing a port of a game and also terrible translations. Those who are ancient, like you and I, mostly myself, will probably know this game because it became a meme in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And you'll know where I'm going with if you remember the game. Do you remember the game Zero Wing?
Zero Wing?
Yes.
Jog my memory.
Okay. It came out for the Sega Genesis. It was a Japanese game, and it was the All Your Base Are Belong to Us game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I see it now.
Okay, so I'm gonna read you. I have the basic translation from Japanese here, right next to the English version of the video game. Okay. Or how about this? Let's make this a game. I'm going to give you the English version from the game of what they said.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what you think they're actually trying to say.
Okay.
Okay, this is from the game. The mechanic says, somebody set up us the bomb.
I would imagine it would mean that they got the ship with a bomb in it now.
Yep, the translation is, it appears someone has planted explosives.
Oh my god.
Is the actual somebody set up us the bomb.
That wow. Okay. All right. Okay.
Here's the next one. Okay. Well, this one's pretty obvious, but main screen turn on.
The turn on the main screen, yeah.
Right, yeah. The appropriate translation would have been incoming visual on the main screen.
Well, that's a lot different, you know, a lot more words, but it kind of got the point across.
Here we go. All your base are belong to us.
I've heard this as a meme.
Yes.
But I don't know exactly what the translation would be.
With the help of Federation government forces, CATS has taken all of your bases.
See, I would have seen that if I looked through a muddy pair of glasses. What?
Oh, dude. We're not even done yet.
Okay.
You have no chance to survive. Make your time.
You'll die soon. Face your doom.
Yeah, treasure what little time you have left.
Wow. Okay.
I love telling people to make their time.
God, it's like I'm throwing lawn darts.
Timmy, no! No, Isaac! Okay, this one, you there's no shot. I'm gonna give you a chance, but I'm just telling you right now. For great justice.
For the Federation.
May there be hope for our future.
No.
Just no.
I hope there's no hope, because that translation is horrendous.
If you go and watch, it's like a couple minute long animatic from the video game with this entire thing being played out. It's like you're having an aneurysm. There is a blood vessel in your brain that has ceased to be one whole thing and has ruptured in your skull like Mount Vesuvius. Okay, it is done. And you'll start bleeding from your nose. It's a bad time. It's like watching the videotape from The Ring. You know, someone's gonna call on the phone 7 days. You know? But dude, like, I don't know why the translations had to be so bad, and it was in so many of them early on. They got better.
They did get better, and again, it's the intern syndrome that these companies dealt with. Is whenever they were trying to get translations, they were getting it from people that originally had the language, right? They would originally have the language, and then they would try translating into English as best as they could. So they would take each increment of the word and then put it into, English. The problem is that in Japanese, there's things called 3 alphabets, and 2 of them alone are pretty difficult. The third one, you have to know at least 2,000 characters before you're even considered like conversationally inept.
Damn.
Yeah, so it is not like the difference between hashi and hashi is like the difference between a tree and a mountain. So there's like it is a problem of like, obviously hashi doesn't mean tree or mountain, just to make it abundantly clear. I do know a bit of Japanese, but I'm just kind of making a statement. But anyways, yeah, translating Japanese is not an easy thing, and it never has, nor will it be, because they're always developing new kanji every single day.
Fair, and that's true. And first off, I'm also going to say that, well, I don't know Japanese. I barely know English, so you're lucky to get what you get. But I mean, I feel like even using context clues, not knowing Japanese, I could have translated Zero Wing better just from the situation playing out on screen.
Yeah, well, go get your bank back in the day.
Exactly.
Go time travel and then just tell them how it needs to be said.
Dude, and I played a lot of PlayStation when I was young. That was my go-to early on. I kind of migrated to Xbox, like I feel like a lot of people did when Halo came out. And Halo's another one that kind of changed the game when it came to LAN parties and just getting 4. If you had 4 friends with 4 Xboxes and a couple of LAN cables, you were set for a weekend, bro.
Oh yeah.
You know? And that, I think that's something that, like, when Xbox Live started, it kind of fizzled out and kind of made it to where it wasn't as much of a bonding experience anymore. You know? Yeah. So I don't know if that's just my personal opinion, but I feel like gaming has become sort of like a non-personal thing nowadays. But I'm getting kind of off track here. When it comes to PlayStation, did you ever play any like racing games or anything like that? Or
yes. One of my first PS2 games. When we purchased it, you get the greatest hits and things like that, right? So mine was Gran Turismo 6. I played through Gran Turismo. My parents enjoyed us playing those games more than any other game that we were playing, because a lot of them that we wanted to play were like somewhat violent, even if it was cartoon violence. And so they got us a fucking race wheel and the pedal, and I was having the best time of my life driving. I was driving, everything between a Corvette all the way up to like Porsches and like it was so much fun. But what game were you talking about, I guess?
Well, actually, it was Gran Turismo. It wasn't 6. I'm thinking even further back, because video games, believe it or not, have always been kind of a big thing in my family,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just like me and my brother and my sister, but my parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? My mom plays this game online called Word Womp, which is basically a bunch of squirrels or groundhogs. I don't know what they are, but they're tiny little creatures, and they hold up letters, and you gotta like spell out as many letters as you can, or as many words using letters as you can. You can tell I did not get the English gene from my mother. But she's a wizard. I don't know how she does it. I think there's like her soul belongs to some deity that it just stuffs words into her head like a thesaurus, you know. And dude, just watching her go to town on that game is crazy. And then my dad is like a Call of Duty maniac. Like, he will play Call of Duty all day. There was one point, I believe, where I can't remember which game, but he was in like the top 500 or 600 players in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, like he got up there. You know, he's a gamer. I'm trying to get him to stream, and I know you're listening, so fucking start streaming, you magnificent person, because you could kick my ass. So anyway, but video games have always been a big thing, but my parents could never really use consoles for shooters or anything like that because they don't have dexterity because they're ancient. But
something about carpal tunnel.
Yeah, you know, eventually the arthritis really starts to set in.
Yeah.
And so we would default to racing games and things like that. So Gran Turismo became kind of the thing for a while. We had a 1970s Corvette that was the ugliest shade of just baby vomit green.
Oh.
Like from The Exorcist. We called it Booger.
Mm-hmm.
And we would always fight over who get to drive Booger and stuff like that. And that's a core memory for me. But even to this day, like for Christmas time, we do a Mario Kart tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, every time. We've been doing Mario Kart every Christmas Eve for like 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for me, well, first off, there was no contest. I'm the Mario Kart champion, let's be honest here. My mom was just happy to be included. But we played Mario Kart Double Dash so much that I would actually memorize the maps to the point where I would look at where the other people were and the location on the screen. I could adjust my placement of my cart, fire a shell backwards, and hit them.
That's demonic.
And
how dare you?
I was horrible, but I relished every single moment of it. And it was like I had my own cheat codes, but my cheat codes were my brain, you know? And, but anyway, like, it's just going back to the fact that it's been kind of in my family for forever. DDR was another thing that was super big for us. But you had that, oh yeah, see, I knew I was going to bring something back with that.
Yep.
But you had those floppy fold-out mats. Yeah. And you could, once you got them out of the bag the first time, they were never going back in that bag.
Nope.
Because some origami master folded that the first time in order to fit it into this 8x10 Ziploc that it's never going back to again. It's like folding a fitted bed sheet. It's impossible. Okay? Right? So every time after you used it the first time, you just would kind of crumple it and toss it, right?
Yep.
So eventually, after the third or fourth crumpling, the left arrow didn't work as much, or you had to really stomp on it. So it would get to the point where you'd have to be so aggressive that it's like you're just stomping on the floor. You better hope you're not in an upstairs apartment, or else you're lower stairs, downstairs neighbors.
I'm gonna call my lower stairs neighbors tonight and tell them to stop banging around. They're
Stop playing DDR.
Stop playing DDR. God dang it.
Go ahead. I was
So-
just gonna say that's just a super big thing for me. Did you guys have that growing up for you? Or?
Yeah, funny enough. I ended up having a friend who lived down the street. These are the same friends that I'm always gonna refer to whenever I'm talking about friends. Because I only had the friends that were on the cul-de-sac. My parents wouldn't let me leave the cul-de-sac, let alone the neighborhood. And so they would live down the street from me, and they had really, really cool parents that wanted to like engage in gaming and things like that. Kind of like how you're talking about. They went so far as to have a full system to where they could play Gundam Wing, the full, you know, cockpit setup and everything, and they also had 2 full industrial DDR pads, the ones that you would see at arcades. And so I would go over there, we'd play Dance Dance Revolution Remix 2, and I would be sitting there dropping the bomb on them pads. You know, it was so much fun. I had an amazing time. And back whenever I'd go back to my house, they would be like, we have those at home. And I would get the fold out origami ones, and I'm like, I feel like I'm stepping on styrofoam every single second, and I feel like at some point I step too hard and this start button's gonna go, you know, I'm never gonna be able to play a game again.
It's like the we have chicken nuggets at home thing.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. And then it's just
Tyson ones.
It's just the Tyson ones.
they never hit the same, you know.
They really don't. Well, they would nowadays because we have air fryers, but you know.
Oh, dude, the invention of the air fryer to me is, well, first off, it is the single most utilized appliance in my house.
Same here.
Like I live and breathe and die by that thing. I don't think my oven has been touched like by me since the air fryer has came into my life.
Yep.
Because you can perfectly cook anything in less than 20 minutes. And I don't have to worry about the bottom being soggy. And I know there's going to be people being like, well, just put a tray underneath it and it'll just, you know, it'll catch the grease. No, I don't want to do that. I have an air fryer. I can't do that.
I don't deal with your peasant shit anymore.
I just, dude, thinking about these old games just takes me, again, I've kind of mentioned it several times, to my favorite video game of all time. And you asked earlier if I thought GoldenEye was. It's gotta be Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
And I don't just mean Metal Gear Solid, you know, period, that one. The entire series was really good. 2, little strange. I don't know why they changed it from Solid Snake to Raiden, but, you know, that's beside the point. And the thing that I found interesting was they kind of took it out of chronological order. It was like Metal Gear Solid, then Metal Gear Solid 2 was a direct sequel, and then Metal Gear Solid 3 took place in like the 60s. Right? Because so in Metal Gear Solid, you are the clone of like the greatest soldier to ever live, right?
Okay.
Then in Metal Gear Solid 3, you go back in time and you play as the soldier.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. But then in Metal Gear Solid 4, you jump forward and you're the clone again. And there were 2 clones. And this is where, first off, if we wanted, we could do an entire podcast talking about the lore of this game, and we would not even scrape the surface. The cutscenes in these games are like 30 minutes long. And if you skip them, you have no idea what's going on. So be prepared to watch a whole movie if you play these games. But it's only been like a handful of years from the first game by the time the 4th one comes around. But your character's like old. And it's an effect of the aging being that they sped up the aging process so that way they wouldn't stay, you know, alive for much longer than they needed them to serve their nefarious purposes and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting topic as well, because they found that in actual cloning, if you clone something, the genes that the clone has are actually the age of the original creation, because it doesn't just make new genes, it makes the same genes. And your cells are still the age of the cells that they were.
Interesting.
So a lot of times clones won't live as long as the original host because they're taking old cell samples in order to make the clone. But anyway, I'm getting really into the weeds there. But the gameplay of it, it's essentially a sneaking game, and you don't want to have to use force because a lot of times they will murk you really, really fast. But like I said earlier, this is what I wanted to get back to, was the game could never be made today. Like, half of the comments this dude makes to, like, the female, like, you know, sidekick is like, you've got a great butt. In the second one, you can actually, to distract the, like, the guards, you can put down like Playboys and like nudie
Oh
mags,
my god.
and if they see them, they'll go, ooh, they'll look around, they'll look left and right, and then they'll like get down and they'll start flipping it through the pages like on the floor, and you can sneak right past. This is where the sneaking around in a cardboard box thing came from, Like, that game to me, in the sense of story, gameplay, and just overall, the twists and turns that it brought out, too. Because you think you know what's going on, and then there's a twist, but then there's a twist on that twist. It's like M. Night Shyamalan came all over this game, right? If he played this game, it would be nothing but just him by himself sweating with a red Gatorade, a box of Kleenex, and a bottle of Jergens, right? He's just having a time. But to me, that is personally the greatest game ever made.
Wow. Okay. I love that. And the fact that it like I can tell you are definitely passionate about it. As someone who hasn't really like delved into the Metal Gear series in its total. I think I missed it because I was too busy playing Mega Man.
Right.
But yeah, no, I can understand where you're coming from. I love that passion, and I think that we'll have to talk about this more at some point in the future.
Oh, dude. I mean, I could go on and on for forever about this game. I highly recommend at least playing the first one if you get the chance. I think you can probably find a port for it. Not too incredibly difficult. I think it might even be on Steam now that they released the anthology, because they released it for like all consoles, including the Switch. I don't know if they put it on Steam though, but I highly recommend if you do get the chance to see it. Mega Man definitely was a game that I dabbled in. I played a little bit, and I enjoyed the gameplay of. What I remember more about Mega Man, and this kind of brings things full circle, was like the toy hand cannon that would fire the Nerf balls, and just you could take out your friends from across the parking lot.
Yes.
With that thing. I remember those.
So I had one of those actually. I had one of those, and they took the same balls that Koosh balls had actually. So and all it was just like you would press down the spring on the inside, and then you would load it up, and then you would fire one blast, and then you could say, Mega Blast. It was really a really cool toy, to be honest, and I think I had more fun playing with like replicas of weapons whenever I was a kid. Yeah, like Nerf guns and things like that. I feel like I had way more fun. But I am going to let you know we are currently at an hour and 17 minutes for our podcast. So any final thoughts on our conversation today?
Yeah, they actually put that toy in a video game, the Mega Man Blaster. Did you ever play Dead Rising?
Dead Rising, yes, I did.
And you could get the Nerf Mega Man hand cannon, and you could dome zombies from downtown with that thing. That game, I feel like it lost its charm after the second one, but man, that's just stupid fun, going through a mall and using everything at your disposal to just off zombies.
It would have really helped if they didn't, spoilers for anyone who has not played the game, it would really help if they didn't kill off every single character that they had in that game.
Yeah, well, it's a zombie apocalypse game, so you kind of know what you're getting into. Like, don't get too attached to the characters.
I guess so.
Yeah, I did, as we wrap up, I wanted to make the announcement that next week on the podcast, I will be voice revealing for the first time in a public forum, I suppose, if that's what you want to call this. So yeah, if you guys want to hear unadulterated, unfiltered The Real Omen, please tune in next week, and you'll be able to hear all the goodness or badness or whatever it is. You'll just have to find out, wait and see.
I kind of, want to hear, before we do end, how are you feeling about that? Like, how are you feeling about being, this TikToker who blew up and made such a name for yourself? Stop it.
But go on. But go on.
Please, yes. How does it feel knowing that this is going to be the next move in your career?
You know, that's a really good question, because I feel like when I started out, it was almost something I needed, right? Because for me, when I started out, and anybody who follows me on Twitter or anything would know that when I started this journey, one, it was by accident. I think we talked about that in the first episode we did. But secondly, my self-confidence was not something that was super high in any capacity. And kind of getting my physical more under control and being okay with myself in that regard. I've never particularly liked my voice. And if I had to edit videos of my voice not modulated, I would never have made a TikTok. That's just not what would have happened. So at the time, I feel like it was necessary as a step for me to start getting my shit together, you know, so to speak. And now I feel like I'm at a point where, well, don't get me wrong, I will still use the modulator. I will still do Omen content. I will still play Val, doing the character and doing all that. It's going to be, you know, it's always going to be something for me. But I feel like I've made enough progress to the point where I can be myself and be okay with that, which is a big thing for me. It's new. You know, I'm discovering more about myself by the day. So, but I'm really okay with it. It's something that is gonna have to happen anyway, because I'm going to TwitchCon in a couple of months. And while I have a way where I could have done the modulator mobile, I'm not gonna. No thanks. I don't want to put up with that. So, you know, let people hear me now, so that way when that comes, they're not like, oh God, is that how you really sound? But yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it. Face reveal, maybe not yet. But voice for sure. I'm ready. I'm comfortable. And next podcast should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much. Again, if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them down in the comment section. It's very important for us to be able to hear back from you guys, hear feedback about what you thought of previous podcasts and things like that. We want to be able to hear from our audience and our community more than anything. If you want to find myself on any platform, just look up Obi.exe. You'll find me, and then same for Omen. It is TheRealOmen _ and on all. Is it that on all platforms?
It is that on all platforms. However, I want to make sure that people know that when you say Obi.exe, you're spelling out dot.
Oh, correct. Yes, it is ObidotEXE. There you go.
Yeah. Especially twitch.tv /Obi.exe.
Yeah, you can find me there. You can find me there. From time to time, you know, I plan on pumping out more content over these next few weeks on YouTube and on TikTok as well. So be on the lookout. Yeah, pause. So yeah, thank you guys again so much. Really appreciate it. Leave your comments, leave your questions. We will definitely answer them here at the end of these segments. And we love you all so much.
Peace.